Hello, in this video I want to look at some sites in Texas and beginning with the Sam Houston statue in Huntsville, Texas, opened 1994. And big shout out and a thank you to Skipper Clipper for sending me the footage, and I'll put his link to his YouTube page down in the description if you want to see more. He's got some sites around Texas worth looking into. But beginning with the statue here, it's quite an important statue because it's one of the largest statues in the US, and as they say, everything's big in Texas. Now, Sam Houston was famously a tall, big man himself at 6.5 foot, but also a very big man in not only American history, but especially in Texas history and well, quite a few other states as well. But he's been he's honoured. There's another park, Herman Park in Houston, has a statue of him there, an equestrian statue, him on the horse above a triumphal arch. This is a very ancient motif, classical in Rome. The emperors in Rome, would very often have similar statue. But at the State Archives and Library building in Austin, there's another Sam Houston statue, and wearing his Masonic apron and regalia. Sam Houston, the Stamp Club of New York, again has this issued a stamp with, again, the Masonic symbolism all over it. At the base of the sculpture itself, it has, again, the compass and square, or the G, the classic symbol for Freemasonry. The plaque itself lays out Sam Houston's history and his importance. So, an American, Texan, patriot, and master mason, but U.S. Congressman, Tennessee, Governor of Tennessee, President of the Republic of Texas, U.S. Senator, and Governor of Texas. Sam Houston was a key figure in bringing Texas into the Republic as well. Also lists his Masonic credits and first providing officer, Grand Lodge of Texas, as well as being a member of these other lodges around the state. Very key figure individually, so it wasn't just his Masonic past, it was literally the contribution he made. He was one of these important men in the building of America, and similar history here in Australia. But for instance, George Washington and the Masonic legacy in Australia and America and Canada is quite strong, and the typical internet history really is way off the mark. I'm not a Mason. I'll just say that out loud. But since I've been studying this, I've come to respect at least the importance of Freemasonry in the establishment of the democracies and all the great liberties and freedoms that we have are really entirely locked up in and around these groups. So I was on the other side, if you want to say, but now actually learning what's going on. Many of the people who cry for freedom and then scream satanic Illuminati Mason are just so way off the mark, it's a joke. But for instance, in the Alamo, again, it's one of these classic monuments, classic sites, and the importance of Freemasons in that was the key figures in there. As we move around the back of the sculpture, and we'll zoom in on any second, but on the hem of his trouser leg of here on the statue, we have the name of the sculptor himself. I hope I get the pronunciation right, but Dykes. And thanks again to Skipper Clipper because he also sent me some of the pamphlets and literature from the visitor centre there. And also you can see how it features the sculptor at the opening in 1994, and also George Bush Sr. Was here, and so there's another few more connections here. For instance, at the inauguration of George H. Bush, George Bush Sr., amongst so many other presidents, he swore an oath upon the George Washington Bible, which is also referred to as the Freemason Bible. And so at the rear of the statue it has the some of the people involved in the sculpture, and again, him being such an important character and well, personality in the establishment of Texas as well as the USA. No surprise that some important high-ranking people would be there. But the important point, and what this whole series is about the hidden knowledge and the hidden symbolism, and what these occult, esoteric sculptures and artworks and buildings, they contain secrets within them. Now, one of the keys to understanding these secrets is the tracing boards, and especially the some of the fundamental pieces that are in these tracing boards, such as Earth, Sun, Moon, and stars, and how the weights and measures of the buildings will incorporate these secrets. Now, in previous episodes where I've put lists and connections together, I originally listed the statue as being 66 feet. For one, this being a standard, very important number that's used in street widths and buildings and etc. Like for instance, the wiki page had it listed at 20 meters and 67 feet. So often is the case that the conversion between metric and imperial is very poor, and so you look for better sources, but so many of the online sources had it at 66 feet, but it's actually 67. So at first this had me a bit worried because it would be an error and I would have had to go back and repair the earlier parts. But in fact, it is 66 feet, but it's got to do with the secret scale, or not even secret, it's got to with not a very well-known scale of measurement called the Cremona scale, which I have been discussing throughout the series. So again, thanks to Skipper Clipper for also sending me the pamphlets from the information center, because this problem now of it actually being 67 feet is not really a problem. It actually increases the mystery, because the 67-foot statue sits atop a 10-foot platform, making the whole structure 77 feet. So initially the problem of it being 67 feet, well, when you add the base of 10 foot, you get the total of 77 foot to this Cremona scale. It actually comes out to be 66 foot on the Cremona scale. So my initial error was actually correct, and it gave it the extra element because it fits the Cremona scale, which is so important in unlocking first, second and third level mysteries in other sculptures around and other important monuments around the world, such as in Astana, the Pyramid of Peace and Reconciliation, buildings across Sydney, across Paris and London, in Paris, a July column, for instance. And this 66 feet also puts it in harmony with the chain, or the Gunther's chain, which I've got into some detail in the previous episode I put up, and how the 66 foot Gunther's chain defines our streets and buildings and blocks and so forth. But this 66 Cremona also releases a bunch of harmonious connections of Earth, Sun and Moon. So let's examine the Sam Houston statue in Huntsville, Texas, 77 feet in total, or 66 Cremona feet, which is 792 feet on the Cremona inches. Here we see a card and the conversion points, and especially the black column with the white writing, the Cremona scale. To begin with, 792 inches, the Earth 7,920 miles in diameter, above 99.99%. It's as good as being the best measurement in satellites, but whole measurement thing, but 2,640 leagues as well, so 264 palm on the Cremona scale. 26,400,000 long cubits. Long cubits, an ancient measure derived from Stonehenge. Again, it's bringing the Earth together, and ionic rods, ionic column on the Masonic tracing board, ionic ancient unit again, and 2,640,000 ionic rods describing the diameter of the Earth. So we have the beginnings here of a harmony point. That's like harmonizing. So another interesting thing, 792, 7,920 miles defines the Earth. 792 million ionic fathom defines the Sun, and the Earth travels around the Sun. Again, it's elliptical orbit. Things shift either way, but at the slowest point, we're doing 66,000 miles per hour. 66 Cremona feet. 66,000 ionic furlong describes the diameter of the Earth. A harmony point where multiple measures harmonize together on beautiful number points. 6.6 million, or 66 5 zeros long fathom again. So we have these ancient scales defining Sun, Earth and Moon on harmony points. 66, a lot of zeros, at 66 sextillion short tons is the weight of the Earth. So 66 feet, 792 inches, 66 and so 6.6 million canonical cubits describes the equatorial diameter of the Moon. 79240, 7,920,000 ionic cubits describes the diameter of the Moon. 792 the Sun, 792 the Earth. 198 hand on the Cremona scale, 19840, so 1,980,000 ionic fathom. Harmony, Sun, Earth and Moon with measure systems, especially with ancient measure systems such as the Ionic, which we get from iconic buildings such as the Parthenon, but also Stonehenge. Now, 88 constellations, there's 88 span, 88 recognized constellations at the moment. That's still a very important connection. Also 88 piano keys, it's one of these many other numbers, but just focusing on the astronomy. Of the 88 constellations, the most important relevant to this is the constellation Hercules, and at the knee of Hercules we have the star Hercules Lambda. Here we see like just the basic star chart and also the keystone reference to the constellation Hercules. The solar system at this moment is moving towards the constellation Hercules. Now the vertical speed and the speed towards Hercules, as well as the speed around the core, are all beautiful, the most obvious being the reference to the Great Year. But also these conversion points, so at 66 million years is completes this one of this up and down cycle, but 4, 3, 2 and 72 classic harmonic numbers. Here we just a wonderful system. Just you know, what can you say? So the speed of the 792,000 kilometers on a 66 million scale, 66 feet, 792 on the however you break it down. But so we have Earth, Sun, Moon and stars all harmonizing around this structure, around these numbers. This is the point, this is the beauty of it. This was what makes it a temple of Sun, Earth, Moon and stars. Sun, Earth, Moon and stars being key points on Freemasonic tracing boards, but going back to the 7 liberal arts and Hermetic systems, the Kundalini, the caduceus of Hermes or Mercury. Of the 7 liberal arts, but look, here we're focusing on, and we see how astronomy is one of the fundamentals of it. So we just, if we flash through and just have a look, it's no small thing. There's a beauty to this, there's a design to this, and they're encoding information done in a way which is very uncomfortable to the modern materialist, because if you jump onto any of the inverted commas modern science sites and they'll throw dung all over the imperial system, even like they refer to it as a cancer and that it must be destroyed. Metric is convenient, metric is simple, metric conveys no information. We do these things not because they are easy, we do these things because they are hard. And that's what, you know, to put it bluntly, metric is wonderful for dullards. And I love metric, I use it, I grew up in the system, but I had to unlearn metric to learn this. And since I've learnt this, I understand the size of the moon, I understand the size of the sun, I understand the orbits. I've learnt more on my own, and from memory can discuss these things. I went through the school system, I had no idea of what was the size of the earth. It was just this random string of metric numbers that had no harm. It didn't convey any knowledge. Even you ask most people who even deal with this, well, what are these? They would have to refer to some reference guide. But with this system, even the common people, in inverted commas, are able to understand and learn things and pass it on, and this will harmonise with the other schools: arithmetic, music, geometry, and as well as the trivium parts of the 7 liberal arts. Once more, a big thank you and a shout out to Skipper Clipper for sending me this footage from the San Jacinto Battleground historic site. Very important historically for Texas, of course, but the San Jacinto Monument is what I'm most interested in because, well, it's an obelisk. Not your classical ancient obelisk, but it's an obelisk nonetheless. And as always, the symbolism in the decoration, as well as the weights and measures, will hold these keys to, again, deeper knowledge about sun, earth and moon, music and so much more. But to begin with, the commemorative star is 220 tons in weight. 220 as a weight through these buildings is something that comes up quite often. Obviously, it's not a coincidence. It's part of this pattern. For instance, New Parliament House in Canberra, the flagpole weighs 220 tons. Brasilia Cathedral has 3 angels, 220 pounds, 440 pounds, 660. In arithmetic, especially in a 4-dimensional sense, these numbers are very, very important. They're, along with 33, they're a key. Now, the star itself is 34 feet in height. Because of the cut-off corners, I do believe it's probably 36 feet if you were to extend this, the base of a star down, but that's just unconfirmed at the moment. But since it's not 33, as it will expect it to be, but there is a 33 hiding here underneath 33, especially weights and measures, but also in well, Freemasonry is the most obvious example. House of the Temple, 33 feet high columns. Scottish Rite Cathedral in Indianapolis, 33, 66, 99 feet. But the base of the, so it's slightly tapered, and the column itself is 48 feet wide. Straight back to many connections, but the touchstone that I've been using most often is the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, 48 feet, which is also 192 palm, which is also our first connection to tuning, for instance, G, 192 hertz. More than that, 48 feet is a beautiful conversion point, a harmony point between common or standard, but as well as Doric and Ionic systems of measures, as seen in the Parthenon, as seen in tracing boards, and the Salamis stone also is another confirmation that our so-called modern common foot has very ancient origins. There's a museum and some other parts, so there's also some like Freemasonic elements within the museum and around the place, but so again, this is one of those buildings that will resonate with multiple forms, the beautiful numbers, classical symbolism, and and as always, there will be references to the golden section. For instance, we can see these essentially they're Fibonacci spirals, also waves. But there's with all these things, there's multiple meanings. But one of the most obvious standout points is the golden section, phi ratio, the divine proportion, as it's called. As again, with all these things, you'll see that hidden in some very obvious places, things that might be overlooked by the person who's not expecting to see something there, it can be easily missed. Even the design from the observation deck, these undulations have connections to ancient architecture, but the obelisk is built, the monument is built on the battlefield site, which is pretty important. But so the width of the building, there's the symbols there. The column itself tapers down to 30 feet at the top of at the 48 feet at the bottom, tapers down to 30 feet. But what's the height of the obelisk? Important question. The immediate searches will tell you that the obelisk here is 567.3 feet high, and I'm not disputing that, but the architectural height, the height it was designed at, was 567 feet precisely. There are all little factors that go into defining what the height is, even additions and the aircraft warning lights and so forth add to it, but the designed height was 567 feet, and with that we get a whole bunch of added harmonies going on, which complement all the other things that are already been happening. Now, there's a little chart, but for instance, I'll go for a little bit now. 94.5 fathom diameter, radius of the moon, 945 Egyptian royal miles. 1,890 Egyptian royal miles is the diameter of the moon, 189 yards. Now, these first lists are from standard measurements, international standards. Radius of the sun, 378,000 Egyptian royal miles. Royal mile is the same as the Royal Mile in Scotland, 8/7 miles. 756,000 Egyptian royal miles, the diameter of the sun. 756 span is the height of the San Jacinto Memorial. Now, 756 feet is also the southern base of the Great Pyramid, which is 440 Egyptian royal cubits. We'll get to Egyptian royal cubits in a second. On the Cremona scale, that's 81 fathom. Now, the ratio of mass is 81:1 of Earth to Moon. Now, I haven't confirmed it, but Peter Plitschke's pointed out that the ratio of speed is 1:81 Moon to Earth. So we have this whole, again, this harmony, this balance going on. But on the Doric scale, 16,200 is the diameter of the Moon, bringing us back with Cremona. 3 to 4 and a whole bunch, but that's the Longfoot scale, which is derived from Stonehenge, an ancient source of measurement. 648,000 the diameter of the moon in Doric rods. Doric, again, an ancient scale, is going to be found in the Parthenon. 6,480,000 furlong on the Doric scale is the diameter of the sun. So sun and moon and earth and moon, but also a Platonic season, which is the 4 cardinal points, 1/4 of the great year, the equinox, precession of the equinox, 6,480 years. Staying on the Cremona, 324 in scientific tuning, E 324 hertz, and B 864 hertz. So we have sun, earth, moon, the stars, and precession, as well as music, and these numbers are lovely in arithmetic as well. On the Longfoot scale, 39650, that's the diameter of the Earth. 396 in ionic yards, 3,960,000 ionic yards, radius of the Moon. Another lovely, the canonical cubit. So the radius of the sun, radius of the moon, 33 on the canonical scale, but also 396. So we have this nice little conversion going on now. Ionic and Doric, we can see in the Salamis stone were being used in ancient times, but also the common foot, which history, just like with the chain, will place relatively recent, but no, it's much older. And Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian columns, Greek orders of architecture, are also mainstays of Freemasonic tracing boards and other groups. But an example of the Parthenon, the columns 48, 45, and 50, common, Doric, and Ionic respectively, and all the other numbers line up beautifully too. And 48 feet also describes back to the base of the San Jacinto, the column, the obelisk column. Back to ancient times, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, spell 125, one section. I have not reduced the measuring vessel, I have not reduced the measuring cord, I have not encroached on the fields, I have not added to the pan of the scales, I have not tampered with the plumb bob of the scales. Also in the Bible there are many references to weights and measure, but in Leviticus 19:36 talks about being honest with your weights, but also mentions bringing the people out of Egypt. Very nice little tie-in, because of spell 125 is essentially it includes the Ten Commandments and most of the books of law you can bring straight out of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. The ancient references to honest measurements and honest dealings as well, which come from that, can also be tracked through and to the modern era with he is on the level, meet on the level, or part on the square being Masonic code word and phrases, but it's also in general use in language, and such as he's a square guy, or this is a square house. So on the level, to be square, are references also to weights and measures, but also to morality and ethics as well, that have come from the ancient times, moved through the occult, the esoteric, but are also in general use around there. So this is one of the reasons why also in the tracing boards you're going to find all the tools of Masonry, but especially measuring tools, and not just the compass and the square, but weights and the ruler, and so many other things that go with honest dealings, with weights and with measurements. And that's because they're key in breaking down and understanding the hidden messages in the architecture, and this wonderful set of harmonies that comes through structures such as Sam Houston statue in Huntsville and the San Jacinto Monument, the obelisk. So in review, the weights and measures and the hidden keys inside these, the sculpture, the statue of Sam Houston, as well as the memorial, the obelisk at San Jacinto, have many hidden codes, but again, it's just about points of harmony, and so where all types of scales, music, astronomy, the geometry, of course, and the arithmetic that goes with it, all are harmonizing around beautiful numbers and whole number proportions. So it's not like the metric system where you have basically ugly numbers that don't tie in together. This system is about, with a certain key set of numbers, you have understanding of sun, earth, moon, and stars above all else. So with that, I'll bring the video to an end and say thank you one more time to Skipper Clipper for sharing his footage with me. It's very much appreciated. Hope you've enjoyed watching. Hope you've got something out of it. Have a good one. Take care.